What's up, otakus? You're SuperOtaku here. Uh, it's the week's end, and yeah, I got no life. I'm here every Friday evening, hanging out with you guys. What's up, Tyler? How you doing, man? I wish I could. I guess these are just kind of showing up on YouTube, so I guess there's no need to pop it up on my screen here. But I wish there was an option. I just want to make sure I can share my screen. There we go. And also just want to make sure I can get my camera working here. Boom, there we go. All right, let me just get this, give me just one moment here. There we go. All right, looking good. All right, we got a lot talked about this this Friday evening because there's some crazy stuff going on which I don't approve of. But we'll break it down, and yeah, let's just start with the books. I got 10 books that I go over each week, kind of basically take the week's news or the week's news that caught my eye. There's obviously a lot of things going on. Everybody's in their little silos, but I take the news that interests me and I share 10 books in my collection that kind of represent that news. And generally, I try to stick to comic book news, things related to comic books and comic book industry stuff. And that's how we approach it. But before we get into the books, I do want to give a shout out to my guests earlier. We had Stephen Yu and Seth Singleton, the creators of Joan Volume 3, Stephen Yu's ongoing kind of, I guess you'd call it just kind of like a manga western, manga inspired Hong Kong action, martial arts, comic, very violent, but also very artistic in its style. The style is evolving, but really dynamic piece of artwork and story. And again, they're gonna come out with volume 3 soon. I have the Kickstarter link to that video, so go check it out. Give those guys huge support for the Kickstarter. It's a really great project, and I'm just wishing those two guys the best as they promote it leading up to the launch. So go support the Kickstarter if you can, and yeah, check out the video. All right, well, let's get into this week's top 10 books. And first off, I'm going to start with some rage here. Just we're going to rage, do a little raging here. Let me get my screen share here. Start with some Mike Sikorsky goodness here on Justice League. I think this is his last issue on the run. This is a really just nasty cover here. Lots of issues. Surprisingly, though, the eye appeal on this book is still, I think, given the grade, right? It's going to be a low grade book. But given that, it's still the eye appeal on this book is not half bad. And I don't know if you guys would agree. I know there's some glare here. There we go. Um, it's got this edge. The edges don't look good, obviously. There's a lot of, and it would benefit from a press. There's a lot of color break here and there, but the image itself is, and the color and everything is just vibrant. Um, I would say, if you're going to get a low grade copy of something, and it's important that it has eye appeal to you because, again, there's some debate in the collecting community, but I think all things being equal, if you have two low grade copies, one has eye appeal versus one that doesn't, um, the eye appeal book is going to command a higher price, command sort of more demand for something like that. So it's always something to keep in mind. Um, and that guides me in terms of my pickups. Obviously, price is important, condition is important, but within that, there are these subtle um, is the book appealing as well? So, and this one is. I mean, I love this cover. I do kind of want a high grade version, but I'm really happy with this low grade. Again, I think the eye appeal on this book is decent. Obviously, when you get to that, like that might, obviously a high grade version is not going to give you that kind of wear and tear on a book. But um, again, all things being equal, for you're doing low grade to low grade comparisons, I think this one would pass such an eye test. But yeah, we're raging like Superman. First off, it looks like I mean, by this point, it's sort of a given that the DCU is building towards some kind of Justice League team, and for all intents and purposes, it looks like with John Stewart and um, Hawk Girl kind of confirmed in the next project, we can pretty much assume, Martian Manhunter, Wonder Woman, Batman, The Flash, that will round out the team. Now, whether they go beyond that or keep it there is the question. And I think the only other factor is whether Aquaman will be part of that or if they expand it to like Hawkman and the Hall of Justice kind of team, um, and incorporate everybody, right? Just have sort of like just a hall of here full of heroes, right? So we're incorporating Adam, we're incorporating, uh, I mean, Plastic Man, I mean, it can just be a whole, you know, like just an integrated cast of characters, or they could keep it really defined and just um, have it be the Justice League. And I'm for the latter part. Just keep it defined. I'm fine with a lot of DC characters being there, maybe helping out once in a while and kind of checking in. But the Justice League is supposed to be kind of set apart from everyone else, right? You got all these like metahumans and teams and people trying to be heroes, but at the end of the day, it's like you bring your it's like you bring your A team, and the A team is doesn't just have anybody or everybody on it. It's just the best of the best. So just curious to kind of what they're going to do there. But anyway, I'm just getting it started with the Justice League book. All right. Why are we raging? Well, that's a good question. This kind of started, I want to say, over the weekend, last weekend maybe. But Logan Paul, who is, I guess, MMA fighter or some, he's a fighter of some kind. He basically posted on social media that he got the highest graded copies of Shonen, two issues of Shonen Jump. One being the first appearance, or not the first appearance, sorry, uh, the first, yeah, it's the first appearance of Dragon Ball Z in Shonen Jump, meaning the first pages of the comic, the issue one, right, the start of the storyline, uh, issue of the comic, and it was a pretty decent grade. I think it was like I want to say it was like a 7.0 or something like that. Not top grade, but I think it was like he said it was like the highest one on record, or the one on the census, which doesn't mean it's the highest graded book out there. Um, and they came in these really ugly, big, like CBCS slabs because CBCS was doing the manga grading. And then he also posted the first appearance of One Piece um, alongside that. That was a little higher grade. I think it was like in the nines on that one. And these are both two Shonen Jump books that, even in Japan, are highly sought after. They're highly sought after collectibles in Japan. And these are two books that um, were only sold in the Japanese market. Okay. So when they published and distributed these copies, these first run, there's only one run of Shonen Jump. Okay. It's printed weekly. And once it's printed, they don't reprint Shonen Jump. What they do is like they collect the Shonen Jumps and the stories in them, and they print them in actual like formatted manga, serialized manga, which is a way of saying serialized comic books, manga comic books. I'm going to kind of use them interchangeably here because I don't want people to get the idea like um, that manga and comic books are all that different. They're the same. It's just there's a cultural. They're both comic books, right? They're both sequential storytelling, but there is a cultural formatting that's different. Obviously, the language, but also the formatting and the pace of the comic books are different. Anyway, he showed off these two books. I just got these two copies. They're the highest graded, first appearance of One Piece, first appearance of Dragon Ball Z, and these are global IP, uh, meaning there are kids in Germany, there are kids in Africa, there are kids in Southeast Asia, Australia. I mean, they're every corner of the world. People are reading manga, people are watching anime. It's a global phenomenon. So when you say Dragon Ball Z, in America, we watched on, you know, television. It was broadcast here. That same kind of like American market Dragon Ball Z, well, it was everywhere. They translated it, broadcast it. It was global. So the same mania that this Japanese IP created for kids in the 90s, it was happening across the globe. And this is the thing, like they start in Shonen Jump. And if it popularizes in Shonen Jump, it goes right to a comic book. Let me put the Naruto comic book here. They put it in a serialized form, and you can't read this here, but this says, what is this? Um, I think it's. I want to say it's. like 782 or something, 700 maybe 92. I'm not good with the numbers. Anyway, it's serialized. There's a lot of issues in the run. This is close to the end of the run, by the way. I think it's the last issue, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so if it gets popularized here in the Shonen Jump, they start publishing the series so that kids can just buy it in a standalone form. Now, this is a collected. It's a series of collected comic books, and they only print like a preview of stuff. So they're giving you just like a chapter here each week. So it's a really slow pace. You're just getting a chapter of a book each week and following it as it progresses. And then when it gets popular to the point of like, hey, I want to get more of the story, they start printing it in these larger formats. And then when this gets popular, they'll make an anime. Either they'll make an animated series, and Naruto became an animated series, and then it became the standalone movies. And anyway, Naruto has now just been around for like 20 some odd years. Kids grew up with it. Uh, you have kids like that became adults and made their kids watch Naruto, and now it's this whole global phenomenon. Um, and Yeah, it all starts in the pages of Shonen Jump. So this literally can launch the careers of manga artists. It can create a small studio into a global powerhouse in terms of revenue, and obviously the Naruto brand, the Naruto IP, it generates billions in terms of licensing opportunities, not only in Japan, but just again in every corner of the globe. So it is big. And we're talking about modest start, right? Starts off in the pages of this. Like if you look at this, the quality of this, the newsprint in here, it's like toilet paper. It literally is like printing on toilet paper. It's like the worst kind of newsprint. It's black and white. They use this like weird like purple color because even black ink is too expensive. So they use these like colored inks because it's actually cheaper than black ink, and it's about the cheapest thing you can produce. But the distribution of Shonen Jump when it goes out, it's anywhere between 1 million to 2 million copies in the Japanese market only. Like I said, they don't print Shonen Jumps for American market or any other market. It's literally printed for these like diehard weekly, preteen to teen age readers, targeted kids. So all these comic books are kind of kid orientated, kid targeted, kid oriented. But that's not to say adults didn't read them, right? Um, if you grew up reading this, you probably kept reading it. It would be just someone like me, like grew up reading it. I would still probably. I never read these, but being from Asia, Korea had their own versions of this. Japan obviously had multiple versions, not just of Shonen Jump, but similar format comic books where you could read kind of more independent stories, maybe. But this was the gold standard for manga. It's like if it got in the pages of Shonen Jump, you had 1 million to 2 million kids reading it every week, and it would just launch the popularity and whatever. So again, this Shonen Jump has been around since the '60s, okay, and it's launched everything from like you name it, like I mean everything's been in manga form, Gundam, uh, you know, Akira, all these. Well, Akira probably didn't make it in Shonen Jump because it's too violent. Akira probably got popularized outside of Shonen Jump. But my point being, like most IP that became like anime and it became popularized started here in Shonen Jump for the most part. So if you look at this era, this is from what is it? It's the 19th weekly issue from 2011. So that would put it in what, 412. This would put it in the like maybe the April. No, the May. This is like a May edition, right? May of, yeah. I think that's what this says. It's up here somewhere. Anyway, it's the May edition in 2000, again, 11, and so it's an older edition. There are probably 1 million copies of this there in existence, but here's the caveat: these aren't considered collectibles in Japan unless it's a key issue like the ones uh, Paul Paul Logan and his investment partner, or whatever, his influencer investment partner. Um, if it's a key issue, this is when you'll have the aftermarket collectors target these. But people won't know it's a key collectible or issue because they people don't just generally go around being like, "Oh, this is a first." Because there's a lot of you got to remember they would introduce new comics in this constantly, and the ones that hit, the ones that popularize, continue to stay. But if it's not a hit, it's not that popular, it would see a little bit of a run, and then they'd replace it with something else. So you you have to have real good foresight to be like, oh, this is going to be a future collectible. And then when things like Naruto hit or Dragon Ball Z hit, obviously the collectors go after it. But there's a interim period where when this book comes out and kids have read it, this is not considered worth keeping. It takes up a lot of space, first of all. And again, it's printed on the cheapest thing, so it's immediately recycled. It's like you read it, you consume it, maybe you keep it for a month or two. And if you really like the story or if you really like the book, you keep it. But for the most part, kids read this, they consume it, and then they put it in the recycling bin, and it gets recycled in Japan. These things do not end up in like a comic book shop or you know, some of them matriculate into comic book shops and are resold. But for the majority of these 1 million, 2 million copies that are printed, they're destroyed, they're recycled, and you never see them again. So the true survivability of these issues is difficult to gauge. So again, 1 to 2 million copies, that's a lot of copies. But the ones that actually continue to exist and survive in the Japanese market today, I would put the number probably like a third of them probably survived, right? So we're talking about maybe 300,000 copies, give or take, right? You're gonna have a little bit of a range there, but that's probably a good estimate of, on any given issue, the actual number of copies in existence. So given that, there are obviously the further back you go, the less number of issues there are. Because like again, the collectability of this is rather a modern thing. Probably from the 80s, 90s on, it became something you would target and collect among a niche number of Japanese collectors. Um, so what Logan Paul touched upon with those two issues um, actually hold a lot of value. Um, Meaning, even before he brought attention to these rare issues, because they are rare in that sense, when you think about the global demand for this IP and the fact that it's localized to the Japanese market, meaning you have to go to Japan to find a copy. And again, the ones that have matriculated here and been graded are probably guys like me who just, you know, brought over an issue like this and felt like it had to get graded, or just loved the idea of this, right? And sought out a copy. But again, those first issue ones are big collectibles in Japan. You go to Japan, they're in cases, they sell for a high price. So if you have the foresight and the wherewithal to like go search for these in Japan, pay big money for it, get it slabbed, and then sell it here in the American market or the global market, that's actually really smart. And that's exactly what Logan Paul did. He went after the highest graded copies of these books, brought attention to them, and now they're skyrocketing. Okay. That's not, I'm actually not angry about that because I think that's smart as a collector. What he sought out has a lot of value, has a lot of collectability. It's obviously a huge global market, global IP market. Not only in Japan are these things going to be sought after and valuable, but you're going to have it across the board in China, in the United States. I mean, this is one realm. Manga is one realm where it literally rules the entire planet, meaning Chinese kids love Naruto, Chinese kids love Dragon Ball Z, American kids love Naruto, American kids love Dragon Ball Z. Where do you have that? Where do you have that sort of like, collective global love for an IP? American comic books don't have it. Chinese kids could care less about Superman. Now that there's a movie, they might know them. Even Japanese, like I went to Japan last summer, Superman was playing. It was nobody watched Superman. They could care less about Superman. Um, and so you have these siloed kind of cultural, you know, areas of focus. But then things like this come along, and it just the Japanese, because of the popularity of Japanese culture, manga, anime, video games, all this, they just distribute this. It becomes popular, and the bar is set as a global IP. Now, what am I mad about? I'm not actually mad about, you know, people going after Shonen Jump. I think Shonen Jump is something cool to collect, which is why I actually have an issue. I told my wife she's going to Japan this summer. And I was like, you need to pick me up more Shonen Jumps. Um, because again, these are printed. They're not, there's no first, second, third, fourth printings of these. These are printed one time and they're bought. And then some are kept. This is actually a collectible reprint of the first Slam Dunk. It's a reprint from 2022. So it's like a collectible, and a lot of people bought this. So I don't think this is going to be that rare. There's probably a lot of copies out there, but yeah, I have one of a million probably. Those are hard to get in the United States. I don't think you could go anywhere and get this. You'd have to go to Japan to get it, like I did. Same here. I just got it because it's a cool Kakashi cover. There aren't too many Kakashi covers, so if you love Kakashi, um, this is there aren't a lot of Kakashi covers. And then this is actually a really funny manga about this demon baby. Hilarious, one of the funniest things you'll ever see. Um, but yeah, this has Bleach. This is a good period for Shonen Jump because you have some of the biggest, you know, global. And this is when anime was probably at its peak in terms of global exposure. You have Naruto, you have One Piece, you have Bleach, you have What are some of the other ones from this era? Um, I mean, those are the three big ones, but they're all here. If you want to Doi Soul, I don't know what that is, but this is a just a really peak period for Japanese comics, and so this isn't going to be valuable. I would imagine it's valuable now in the sense that there's some FOMO and speculation happening here in the market, but it's going to die down. And at the end of the day, I don't think this will hold any real value. But the two, again, the first One Piece, the first Dragon Ball Z, those are really like grail books to go after if you're a manga collector. So, hey, what's up, Jens? What's up, Tyler? Glad you guys are joining. All right. So, with that being said, what I'm actually angry about is we're seeing books like this get graded. This is a $3, 360 yen is about $3. This is a $3 book you can get anywhere in Japan. And books like this are being graded, and people are trying to pawn them off as some kind of like key issue or something that has collectability. I just mentioned there's just one printing of this, and it's again 1 million to 2 million copies. This here, this serialized version, they print this every year. Okay, there's about I want to say there's about 100 to 200 printings of this particular comic book, meaning this is, like I said, Japanese people don't collect these. What they do is they'll get them at the store if they want to read it again. It's like $3, and they'll maybe collect a little run for their collection, and then they'll recycle it. So these get constantly bought, destroyed, printed. The only way you can tell if this is a first printing or a 400 printing is through the lot number. They produce these in lots. They don't have like a first printing or second printing. In fact, the first lots of these, you could probably go back and find the first lot number, but again, you're not going to be able to. That stuff, like the company really keeps track of. It's not like collectors have this. Oh, that's the first lot number. No, it's just a jumble of numbers. You're not really going to tell. Well, maybe through the barcode, there might be something you could um, maybe glean that this is a first printing or a early printing. But again, these are not going to be worth a lot. So don't get sucked into buying the mass printed manga here. It's worthless. It's only good for if you want to actually read it. Don't go slab this and try to sell it or pretend like it's got some kind of value, okay? Don't fall for that. Please. I'm just educating you right now because we're seeing a lot of stupidity on eBay and YouTube right now with people grading this and trying to pawn it off as some kind of Logan Paul collectible. Okay? And that's what I'm mad about. I literally saw somebody like CGC slab something like this, which has, again, several hundred printings and is worthless. Um, yeah, it's rare here in the US, okay? But it's not rare in Japan, and it's not a collectible. So quit confusing this with something that has rarity and collectability. This is worthless. And when you try to create some kind of you know trend or FOMO around something that's ultimately worthless, it's a pyramid scheme at the end of the day, right? You're you're trying to elevate the value of something so that you can flip it, make some money on it, um, and you're taking advantage of this sort of market trend, just like stocks, just like AI stocks or any whatever meme stock you want to like. It's the same concept. It's like, oh look, I have this Japanese book. It's graded a 9.8. This is worth hundreds of dollars. Buy it from me. I'll sell it to you for 50 or whatever. And it's just like supreme ignorant stupidity. Don't fall for it. Even the shonen jumps, okay? The shonen jumps are not that rare. Now, go to Japan and maybe pick these up. They're sold in used bookstores all across Japan. I picked this up in my wife's hometown. Or no, I picked this up. I did. I paid like maybe $5 for this. Picked it up in like a novelty shop um, that is collectible shops. But these aren't. This is the thing. Like you're gonna see a bunch of people go to Japan now, just basically buy up all of these from these shops, come here, and then get them graded and then resell them at exorbitant prices. Don't fall for that, please. It's not that valuable. At the end of the day, let the FOMO die. Let these like people who do that, let them sit on the copies and realize, man, I made a huge mistake thinking that there was a market for stuff like this. Um, and let them sit on that. If this is not something you can read and enjoy and or even like. A lot of people like Naruto. I'm not saying you shouldn't go after Naruto stuff, but if you don't even like Naruto and you're trying to buy it, like ask yourself, you got some real serious issues, okay? So don't create a market and demand for this just because there's it's trending and you see things selling on eBay for like hundreds and thousands of dollars of essentially what is, you know, I mean, it is cool. It's a comic book at the end of the day, but you're just creating this, uh, false market for something that at the end of the day, people love Naruto, but will they pay hundreds of dollars for a random comic book? I doubt it. I doubt it. So let's let's tone it down a bit with the FOMO stuff. This is a great example. This is Akira Toriyama. This is the serialized manga. This was probably printed in the 1990s when it came out. I don't know if it's an early printing or not. Look, somebody. Um, no, that's part of the comic book. Um, this is a popular series. So this is from the creator of Dragon Ball Z. This was uh, Doctor. What is it? Sramp. Yeah, Sramp. Doctor Slump. Not too familiar with this. I think I picked this up because I wanted to just kind of look at the art. Um, it's cool, Toriyama art, pretty cute stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's not worth anything. I just picked it up because it was like $1 in our community book sale. I think someone just gave this to me. Like I was just like, I'll take it. It wasn't for sale or anything. I just thought the art was cool and I picked it up. Got a bunch of books like this. They're just sold in our community because we have my kids. My kid's gonna get into manga, and the families here they just donate. Like they have more. They're like literally drowning in manga. They're just like, take my manga, please. It's taking up too much space, and they just community share it with people like who haven't read it yet, and that's all it is. It's not valuable. So um, please stop with the manga stuff. I am going to show off some cool things you should pick up. Um, for example, a lot of people think Akira is a movie, but it was actually a manga first, and it was. a huge volume manga. I mean, this thing had what I think serialized. It was like 20 to 30 issues, and they came in these big volume. Sorry, I think they were like um, six big volumes like this, so six issues like this. But in the serialized form, it was I think like 20 some odd issues. But they printed them in these large format ones because they're just so. It's better to read them in large format um, panels, especially given all the detail and just incredible artwork in this story here. Uh, Katsuhiro is this is his just like monumental work. Um, and of course, the popular this manga was so popular it became the animation that they really dedicated. It was just the love for this comic book was kind of translated into the care they took in animating that late 80s masterpiece. And now it's like Akira to me, like, I mean, how many times have you seen the bike, the bike turn in Akira or the bike approach in comic book covers? It's one of the first truly global animes. Yeah, I mean, this had a huge global reception because when it came out, it was just a monumental piece of filmmaking. So that's a cool thing to actually collect and read. Even I mean, again, it's not going to be worth much. Just go out and add it to your collection because it's cool. Not everything has to be valuable, right? Just things have to be cool. And there's nothing cooler than Akira. So I just had to pick up. I couldn't pick up all six. I just picked up the first and last issues of the run, just so I'd have these massive, cheap ass comic books in my collection. All right, where are we on the list? I think those are actually the ones on my top 10 this week. I think we're on. We've shown off two books. So we're on number 10, 9, 8. This is number 8 this week. Doctor Doom, yeah. We're still talking about Doctor Doom. Doomsday. I think this is the thing about like the time we live in. Apparently some scenes leaked, but the scenes look like they were AI generated scenes. So I can't, they just you can never trust what you're watching. So am I really watching something that leaked, or is this some like AI generated, fake content? But yeah, they had Thor and Doctor Doom fighting, and the Doctor Doom in the leak looked pretty cool. It definitely looked, you know, computer generated in terms of the movement of the suit and the expression of the mask and all that. So I can't say I was impressed with the CGI, um, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, you got Doctor Doom on the big screen. That's really kind of all that matters. So there you go. We got Doctor Doom. We're just kind of waiting for this thing to like play out and see how things turn out. But yeah, Avenger Doomsday. It's kind of. Also, want to recognize Sadie Sink. The details around her have yet to really kind of emerge, but we know she's playing Jean Grey. We just don't know what kind of relationship she'll have with Peter and how she fits into the larger picture for Avengers Doomsday. But yeah, if she's Jean Grey, you would imagine she's going to be in the X-Men, uh, Avengers Doomsday as one of the X-Men. And so we should, again, it's probably going to continue on. Her arc is not just going to end there in Spider-Man, but it's going to probably continue on in, assuming it's a hit, right? Assuming all these like fans fall in love with this version, um, she should be a mainstay moving forward with subsequent X-Men films and whatnot. So should be fun. So we got Jean Grey on the list. What is that? 10, 9, 8, 7, down to 6. My number 6 on this week's list is Spider-Man 2099. And this is on the list because we actually got at CinemaCon, apparently they played like the first 10 minutes of the movie or something. And, like, they played a big chunk of the scene. And they also played shared uh, different, like a, I guess you'd call it a like a mini trailer, like just different scenes of the upcoming movie. And this was sort of the final format because they had filmed a bunch of stuff, rewrote it, reworked it, filmed a bunch of stuff again, rewrote it, reworked it, and it took. This is the reason for the delays, is because it wasn't really hitting with like some of the people involved in the project and test audiences and whatnot. And so they had to really kind of tweak it and tweak it and tweak it. And now it's like, okay, let's just, we're done with the tweaking. We're just going to move forward with this and we'll see where it lands. Um, but for me, and this is just, again, this is my own opinion, own theory, but the way they set up Spider-Man 2099, where he's sort of the main kind of antagonist in the second movie. I really think they're setting him up for a redemption arc, right there, because he feels responsible for the destruction of his timeline or his arc. And I just feel like, because he's trying to get Miles, he's trying to contain Miles or stop him. And you also have the evil, I shouldn't say evil, the sort of the Miles that kind of the Batman version of Miles, right? The traumatized version of Miles, up against the hero version of Miles. And I think there's something there as well, but you have that um, tension there, as well as, again, the threat coming from the Spider-Man, um, led by uh, Spider-Man 2099, and then um, all the incursion stuff. You just got. I just feel like at the end of the day, someone's going to emerge. Miles is going to have to make a choice where he's got to sacrifice himself, and I really think um, you're going to see Spider-Man 2099 become the martyred hero in this at the end of the day. So I'm just saying, like, there's a big opportunity for this book, I think. Um, Obviously, he may die, and so when characters die, you got to be careful with a book like this. But all in all, if he ends up being like the real hero of this narrative, there are ways you can kind of like keep him relevant in comic books, obviously. And what's important is, like, how fans react to him. Like now, again, he kind of came across as the jerk or you know, the bad guy in the second one, but I think he really is going to come around and be the object of redemption here in the third arc. And I really think that's what's going to happen because, again, just the way they set him up, the way they're kind of moving forward with all this, like um, fixing the timeline stuff. I think it just creates a really convenient narrative for somebody to make a sacrifice, right? So that you don't lose an entire timeline or universe of characters. Again, somebody's got to do that. And, Miles could do it, but I just think if it's some kind of sacrificial situation, um, this dude is ready to take on the responsibility. All right, we got how many more books we got here? One, two, three, four, five. Five more books, I think. So I want to say I covered five books with you guys so far. Let me know. I'm not keeping. I lost count already. Um. So number five on the list is Lobo. I just felt like putting Lobo on the list. Um, you know, I think the Lobo um, excitement has died down a little bit. We're also showing off Guy Gardner. Don't want to cheat Guy Gardner of his relevance in all of this, but I think the Lobo uh, the Lobo mania has died down a little bit because we've actually got Jason Momoa now. We've got actual little tidbits of scenes with him, him doing lines, and the look of him down. And yeah, he looks fantastic. I know there's some people. Again, you can never trust these like rage baiting like Disney posters, but uh, for all intents and purposes, he is Lobo. He looks great as the character. I love the voice he's using for the character, and definitely, again, I think moving forward, uh, he's got the attitude, he's got the look, the voice, and it really, at the end of the day, it just comes down to um, some of the action sequences and how cool some of those like fighting scenes are going to be, you know. And then of course, you got to see Lobo versus the Justice League, right? Versus Superman versus you know Guy Gardner. Just got to kind of see this. That day's coming, and just to see the extent of how many heroes or how many people are going to be. It's going to be a. It's not going to be Superman versus Lobo. I think it's going to be like a series of characters versus Lobo. So, um, you know, will we see the entire Justice League take them on? Maybe. I mean, they'll just kind of re-emphasize how badass of a character he is. But there you go. Got some Lobo on the list. Um, we got some Black Suit Spidey. And just as a bonus, I'm going to give you some additional Spawn variant in the classic Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 13 pose. This is the black suit version. As you know, issue 1 has the red suit version, but I focused on the black suit version because there's the rumors of the black suit are intensifying. And there's also rumors that we're going to get Ned Leeds as Hobgoblin. And yeah, I think the rumor right now is that um, Peter Parker dies, and the symbiote suit is the one that saves him. This symbiosis with the suit is what actually brings Peter back from uh, his human form death. Meaning, again, there's this symbiotic relationship. The suit kind of reinvigorates or regenerates his life force, and he's able to come back. What's up, fanboy? How you doing, man? We got to connect at some point, man. Um, I just want to do a stream with you at when we have the chance, but I know you've been busy, so no worries, man. I hope I'm keeping you company with your ear pods or whatever. So yeah, we love the black suit. We're gonna celebrate the black suit. It's coming. It's coming at some point. All right. The next book we're gonna show off is I don't know which one to show off first. I guess I'm gonna show off the crappier art first. And this is subjective, obviously. Some people are going to think this is a phenomenal piece of work. Uh, I think it's cool because it's Frank Miller, but at the end of the day, it's not that. It's not that great. What we have here is Batman and Robin: The Boy Wonder. It's a special edition because this one is actually like uh, no color, just inks, and just fantastic black and white Jim Lee art on the pages here. And oh, Tyler's also working and listening. Awesome. You guys are the best, man. Um, so yeah, the interior of this book is black and white. So one of those like inked versions. Um, and this is issue number one. It's the Frank Miller cover variant, you know. And the reason I'm featuring this book, well, there's a couple reasons, but I'm going to start with the one dear to my heart is actually kind of, yeah, I guess we could take a look at issue one here. This is my trade paperback version. I think this is the first print, if I'm not mistaken, because I got this when it serialized. Um, One thing you have to know about this, so this is a bit of a controversial runner series because first off, it was delayed. It was mad hyped. You can think about this. This is right around the 2000s. Jim Lee had just come to DC, and he's teaming up with Frank Miller, right? Frank Miller, Sin City, Dark Knight Returns. I mean, the Daredevil. He's this legendary artist, storyteller, and now he's teaming up with Jim Lee, the the highest selling comic book artist of all time for one issue, right? So I mean, this is how they marketed it, right? Like create 300 in Sin City, and then artist of Batman Hush. I mean, it was just like the comic book event at the time. So yeah, obviously, when they released this, a lot of people bought the issue. Issue one is incredible, and it's incredible because you got just these like really peak uh, like Jim Lee panels here. Let me just show you kind of wet your whistle here. You got this Vicky Vale here in her underwear. Come on, man. And then you've got sort of the last panel here with uh, what is it? There it is. With Batman saying you've just been drafted into a war. He's taking Dick Grayson and yeah, and then it starts off really strong and then it gets you get kind of this weak ass issue 2. It's not that just a lot of car riding and kind of weird weird Frank Miller dialogue and then they introduce you have sort of these like characters being introduced, how they're going to tie together. You just don't. It just seems, Wonder Woman and Superman showing up in like in the middle part of the series, which is cool. No one's going to complain about that. But you start getting delays like right around the middle of the book. So if it had any chance to get cooking, now you're just sitting there waiting for indefinitely for the next issue to come out. So you're already pissing off some fans. Um, there were some art delays initially, and then it became a story delay. And I think just Frank Miller just he just was getting paid to do this, and he just didn't have like a good idea what he wanted to do with the story, and it led to delays, and then I don't know. And to be honest, as much as I love the Jim Lee art and all this, I just feel like Jim Lee and Frank Miller don't vibe well. And that's, some, you know, eh, there's a lot of words here. There's a lot of stuff here. And, just to kind of see it like that kind of just one panel and, you know, all this descriptive stuff, sometimes that just doesn't work. And it's nobody's fault. It's just like Frank Miller is writing something, and Jim was trying to keep up with whatever he was trying to get on, like convey and communicate. But like when you have, I'll literally show you like one of the problematic panels here. It's actually kind of like exhausting as a reader. You just never want to do this to a reader, but you literally have like this. Yeah, they're sitting in a car having this dialogue, and it's just panel after panel after panel of what's the point of this, and just an absolute kind of, I don't know. It's I don't think even this thought process or dialogue helps the story. It's just a lot of kind of needless character development or relationship development um, that doesn't need to be that detailed in a comic book. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here, but anyway, I was inspired to read the comic book again. Try to get like kind of give it another chance, kind of see my memory of it. Uh, if I'd have a better kind of experience with it this time around, no, no. I still love the Jim Lee art. Don't get me. There are panels in there that are just absolutely phenomenal. It's just these two guys do not vibe well together. Frank Miller and Jim Lee should not do comic books together. Um, and I think just Frank Miller in general, like toward from this project on, like if you look at like the Dark Knight um, Returns, the subsequent Dark Knight Returns, like 2 and 3, we call them DKR, right? DKR 2 and 3, like the second and third chapter, they're just like not that good. Like he didn't have to do sequels or conclusions to the original. The original is a modern classic, um, probably one of the best, comic books ever written from our era. But the subsequent ones are just absolute garbage. And I don't know. I think just Frank Miller. there's a little bit of a sellout aspect to his career toward the latter part, because Sin City, man, you want to talk about peak comic book, Sin City, Frank Miller, 300. That's another great comic book. Um, Frank Miller can, as an artist and a storyteller, man, absolutely no one can beat him. But um, when he's kind of forcing stuff like that, like this is what it felt like. Like he was just, I need cash. I'll just do a comic book. It just felt that way. Just his heart wasn't in or something, but it just the art too. Like this kind of artwork. I mean, there's been worse, but like, come on, you're gonna put that on a comic book cover? Jeez, it's like, I don't know. I guess this will get some people excited, but doesn't get me excited. Just whatever. Um, and then we get, of course, the person who should be doing comic book covers with the A cover here, and that is our number two book, Jim Lee. Goodness. All right. I also want to share, and this is a little bit embarrassing. Um, I actually, so the reason I'm focusing on these two, Frank Miller and Jim Lee, in this book, um, Frank Miller and Jim Lee recently are featured in um, a museum of sequential art. So it's a comic book museum essentially, and this museum features the initial works in this museum. Obviously, they're going to expand it, and more artists are going to get added as the museum grows. But initially, this museum, again located in Southern California, Los Angeles, is going to feature the works of um, Kate Severin, uh, Jack Kirby, Mobius, Frank Miller, and Jim Lee. Five artists spanning from the golden age all the way to the modern age. And just those five were selected just as kind of some curators' assignment as the representative artists of each era, like this, the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then 90s to today. I mean, you're going from Severin to Lee with these five artists that kind of cover, like again, those 2 decades. Five artists covering the entire scope of comic book history. Literally, I guess you could call it like five um, or three generations of artists, right? Um, but it's a fascinating concept, this comic book museum, because what you're focusing on is not comic books themselves, but uh, the museum is focusing on the artwork, the sequential storytelling of art, meaning you don't necessarily need words, but the people that most exemplify panel artwork, right? When you take all the word bubbles, you take all the stuff out, you're just showing sequential panel art, the narrative and the story that that art creates. And again, they just randomly chose some representative, and they're great. All of them are really amazing, fantastic, legendary figures in comic books. But it does feel a little like, just some fanboy curator was designating his favorites as representative of this museum. But this museum obviously is going to incorporate more artists, more works. It's just an initial sort of announcement. These are the five artists that are building the foundation of this. museum where we highlight comic book art. And moving forward, I'm sure you're just going to see more and more artists come into the fray. But yeah, they got a good five representative uh, group of artists for each age or era um, of comic book history. But I also think, you know, when you pick five to represent, you're leaving a lot of really great names and artwork uh, off the list. And my whole thing is like, do we really? I mean, I don't get me wrong. It might sound like I'm being like I'm not a fan of Frank Miller. I am. I'm a big fan of Frank Miller. But um, as a sequential like artist, I'd put him more in the storytelling range, the writing range, than the artist range. And that's just me personally. But there's so many other people I'd put ahead of Frank Miller from an artist standpoint, and it just isn't. I mean, obviously Jim Lee, I don't disagree with that, but um, again, maybe they're just thinking like these artists kind of stand out because um, their art style is unique, or it sets them apart from their peers. Maybe that's the standard they were looking at, but anyway, that's what it is. All right. I did something dumb, and I don't know if it's going to be. Basically, I have to stay off eBay, okay? Um, because what I did this just yesterday. Yesterday, I was sitting on the toilet at work, and I had the eBay app open, and I just, for whatever reasons, I typed in Jim Lee sign, right? Jim Lee. I put in Jim Lee sign comic book. And of course, all the signature books coming up for auction, up for sale, come up. Now, I'm not trying to get expensive signatures or anything. I'm looking at like what's really affordable, what's like in the 20. So I filter it to like, 15, like 10 to $25 range. That's kind of my, like, that's a cheap Jim Lee signature pickup if you get for 10 to 50, $25. And I filter it, and up pops this book. This book with a beautiful Jim Lee signature here and a Frank Miller signature here. So it's double signed on a Frank Miller cover. I don't mind. Again, the interior pages of this are pretty amazing. And I'll show you because I did show off the the final version. This is sort of the artistic version of it. So as you can see, with all the just in black and white. There's some scripting in here too. So it's a larger format. It's a special edition here that we're looking at. But for example, that underwear, yeah, you get in black and white there. That's beautiful. Um, so anyway, this book here, they had a double signature with a. There was already one bid. Somebody had the starting bid of $20, and I was like, for $20, come on! And it had $10 shipping, so you would have paid 30. You're paying $30 just to play the game. So I was like, hey, $30, I'll buy that book. Double sign, you know, uh, Batman, Robin comic book. Again, this is the one and only time these two legendary, they're being featured in a museum together. These legendary artists kind of team up, and man, it was an event, right? Everybody was like Frank Miller, Jim Lee doing a comic book. It was like for fanboys like us, it was just like the announcement. Just didn't execute the way a lot of people were expecting it to. which is fine. But yeah, so I put in a bid, so it's currently at $20.50, and I'm gonna pay roughly, like, with tax and shipping and all that. I'll pay $33 now. If I get it for $33, if I'm the winner, there's only a day left, and I've been the top bidder now for a day. So I think there's three people watching the auction. So unless someone's planning to snipe right at the end, I am currently the winning bid, and I'm gonna get a double sign book that on this cover, which, Frank Miller signed it, so it's like it's not terrible. But Jim Lee Frank on this book, I'm actually looking forward to winning it. I'm kind of like, first off, where I'm not looking forward to winning it is I could spend $30 on my summer budget, so I don't need to be picking stuff off of eBay. But then I was thinking to myself, well, let's say you had run into this book out in the wild with a $30 price sticker, Jim Lee, Frank Miller staring you in the face. Would you spend $30 on that book? And I would definitely. I'd be like, hell yes, we're picking this up. So um, I'm hoping I win the auction. And if I don't, that's fine. I don't want to pay more than $30, but I'm comfortable paying $30 on, again, uh, a comic book signed by two of my favorite artists, where they collaborated on. It's still, at the end of the day, it's still a really monumental piece of work. It's kind of reimagining the origin of Batman and Robin here. Um, and yeah, I'd be happy to pick it up for $30. So stay tuned. Whether I win the auction or not at that bid remains to be seen. And right now, if you guys are just getting the idea, like, hey, let me look this up and bid on it. Hopefully, you won't do that. But I know Ron's ready to snipe it. Ron's like, let me get this book now. What's up, Ron? But yeah, that is something we'll watch, and I'll keep you updated on whether I win that or not. All right, now we're to our top book. This is the top book of the day or the week. And yeah, we lost a titan in comic books. Jerry Conway, legendary comic book writer. I mean, this man is responsible for The Punisher. So many key critical moments in the ASM, Peter Parker's, you know, canon. Talking about the death of Gwen Stacy. I mean, and then you have, it's not just, you're talking about books he wrote across the Marvel spectrum. He had his hand in everything. And then he also had an illustrious career at DC. Especially, we're looking at this era here, this sort of late Bronze Age era of Superman as well, where he teamed up with Kurt Swan. He teamed up with Kurt Swan to do this run on Superman. We're talking about like a run that doesn't get enough love or credit. Conway, Swan, and they're he does. Conway's doing a bunch of stuff with not just Swan, but like the likes of Schaffenberger, right? He's working with various like um, sort of your run of the mill Superman interior artists on this run, and this is a good run. It's like a 10 issue run where Conway is here showcased in the pages of Superman. And of course, he goes on to do not just Superman, but like issues of Batman, issues of the Justice League. Um, so we're talking about a writer so revered in the industry, and you don't see this every day. Only a few people kind of get this golden key to kind of do whatever the fuck they want in comic books. Excuse my language, but you only give this privilege to just titans, right? Like, you know, when Jim Lee comes to your freaking company, you just say like, "What do you want to work on? Please work on whatever you want." And that's kind of the privilege that people like Jack Kirby, people like Jerry Conway, who kind of cross over into the realm. If you start at Marvel, you cross over to DC, you kind of get to do whatever project you want. And fortunately, most of those people end up like being like, I want to do Superman. It's like everybody wants to do Superman. And that's what Jerry Conway got to do on this run. So I just want to celebrate the legacy of Jerry Conway. Again, he is, and he was doing cons and shows and just an industry legend that stayed right there, in his lane. He didn't wasn't like Frank Miller and doing movie scripts and like, popping up in Hollywood and like thinking he's better than other creatives in the industry. No, like Jerry Conway just was just like writing comic books right up until he couldn't do it anymore, and just interacting and engaging with fans until he couldn't do it anymore. Just kind of like Stanley in the sense that like here's this immense figure that everybody in comic books knows, and he has always kind of been in this circle of like um, being accessible, um, sharing his thoughts and his knowledge and his insights um, with his audience, with his fans. And the man, again, yeah, he's just again, when a figure like that passes, it's like the entire comic book world just stops what they're doing and remembers him, um, and celebrates his legacy and work. And again, it's an incredible career that spans like you name a character, just like name one of the top characters anywhere. Jerry Conway has written um, for that character. It's literally that simple. He's just done everything on pretty much his footprint uh, across Marvel and DC, covered the span of the spectrum of characters um, for those respective publishers, and not too many people can claim that. That's like a goat stat, sometimes you have these stats that where you're just like, I can't believe he's been in that many playoff games or he's won that many championships. It's just like that's one of those goat stats. Like you look at the books that he's worked on. I mean, there are just a few handful that can say they worked on Spider-Man, Batman, X-Men, Hulk, Did I say Batman? Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash. I mean, you name a character and he's done it. So that just goes to show, again, how revered he was amongst his peers to just again get that kind of nod, hey, you if you want to do this book, by all means do it. There's not going to be anybody in this building that can do a better job than you on this book. So you kind of get your, you know, pick of the litter. And what I'm really had I so I had an opportunity to pick up First Punisher at at the comic book shop in Tacoma. I'm forgetting the name now, but this was 2 summers ago, and it was as the Punisher book was heating up. It's obviously, kind of one of the top books you can get right now, but it was heating up. I want to say 2 summers ago, and I had an opportunity to pick it up. It was sitting there at the Tacoma comic book shop as a Grail book, as it should be, um, graded. I think it was like a 6.5, and they were selling it for $800, 750 or $800, somewhere around there. And it was a signed copy by Jerry Conway. And I remember thinking, like, man, that's a big book. You got a Jerry Conway signature on there. It's like graded like at a 6.5, like seven, like it was like 7 or 6 or something like that, in that range. And it looked beautiful in the slab. And it's First Punisher. And I was like, man, 700, $800. I didn't have the money, first off, but it's one of those books where you're just like, do I take the plunge? Do I just like risk divorce? Do I risk, like losing my house for a comic book? And in that moment, in that blink of an eye moment, I just was like, maybe. And I was like so close because it was in my hand. I was looking at it, I was like, God, this would be just an incredible book to own. And again, 700, $800. I was just like, nah, out of my budget. And I just put it back. But it's one of those books where you just like, will always think about it, right? You're just like, man, how many opportunities will I have to have a First Punisher graded, decent grade, um, and signed by Jerry Conway? Uh, you're just never going to get those opportunities. And yeah, um, it was cool that I got to hold it and look at it and kind of admire it. But at the end of the day, book out of my league, and fairly priced at that time. I felt like, yeah, if I bought it for 800, I could probably flip it for much more than that now. But you know, it is one of those things. But yeah, just wanna, we got the Neil Adams, Jerry Conway. They're both in comic book heaven, um, where they belong. They're you know they're the gatekeepers of comic book heaven, and so just want to celebrate those two legends with this comic book, and bring you attention to, like, this is classic stuff right here. This is as good as comic books get, and yeah, to so many legendary creators in the pages of this. Hopefully, you guys will give this. Everybody talks about Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams run on Batman. Well, don't forget the Neil Adams cover and Jerry Conway, Kurt Swan run on Superman here. Not just Kurt Swan, by the way. There's a good mix of artists here that are featured um, uh, in any given Superman book, right? Superman, and people tend to think like Kurt Swan is in every. He literally is. Like, he's in most Superman books, but um, there were other cast of artists there uh, on any given month or day or period, um, working on Superman as well. So it's something to keep in mind. All right, so we're going to end with some Neil Adams Supergirl legs to take us out the week. And yeah, an update on my back as well. As you know, on Monday I got the PRP injection in my back. And initially my back was very sore. Um, and then there was a lot of inflammation because when they inject that thing in your back, um, because it's triggering healing from your body naturally kind of fights what's ever there, um, and it kind of triggers inflammation at the healing sites. So my back on day one was sore from the injection itself, and then it started to just flare up. So like Tuesday, Wednesday, like Monday was really bad. I couldn't really do anything. And then I've been just sitting at work, and it just exacerbates the pain. It's just pain, but it was inflamed and pain in pain. I was kind of like unable to really move because it just felt really uncomfortable. And it was just really tender. Like I just didn't want people, I didn't want to like be touched or so, like Cairo appointments. I was just like, don't touch me today, please. I just don't want to do any exercise. I just want to kind of like lie down and rest. Um, but yeah, that started to fade a little bit yesterday. I just feel like the inflammation went down a lot by Thursday. And today wasn't so bad either. Just again, I just had a week of sitting and working with an inflamed back. So I'm just kind of feeling the residuals of that. Um, but I'll get to rest hopefully tonight and more over the weekend. But yeah, we're hoping by the end of the weekend because it's starting to feel better. But hopefully by next week, the healing process will have fully kicked in and taken hold, and we'll start to see the pain or the discomfort and pain in my back um, go away, like dissipate, recede, however you want to say it, just like not be there anymore. That's the hope. So, um, again, it's going to take a little bit of the treatment to start kicking in and working, and which I feel like it's been doing the past couple days. But we'll just hopefully that continues to like progress and get better and better and better, and we'll feel it by next week. So stay tuned for that. What's up, Wellbore? How you doing, man? Thanks for joining. Got a good little Friday night crowd here. My otaku's here. That's great. Um, Let me know what you think of this whole manga. I don't even know what to call it. It's like manga FOMO. Is it FOMO? I just feel like it's this whole social media thing and it's being exacerbated by the clowns that like they just want they want to talk about it, they want to promote something, and then you got the sellers who are just trying to like flip. They're trying to buy up every little thing related to manga and everything, and then flip it to the next idiot who will buy it. And I just feel like the real collectors aren't falling for it, right? Like real collectors, I mean, maybe you'll pick up a book here and there because you might want it, but you're not going to go out and like just buy it for the sake of buying it because everybody else is buying it, right? Don't fall for stuff like that. And I'm calling it out. I'm just saying, like, look, there are probably two or three Shonen Jump books that will go up and they'll maintain a very high value. I think the Logan Paul effect is real. Like those two books he bought, he's going to be able to flip them now for probably 10 times their amount, because he brought one, because he brought attention to them, and two, because those are rare key books. So if once they escalate, they're not coming back down, right? They're going to stay up there. So there is a good amount of like, if you want to pick it up, if you want to pick up first Dragon Ball Z, I think you can probably get the first American comic book appearance. It's like $100 book. Go pick that up. I mean, you know, pick up the American comic book version, more copies of it, less of a stress factor. You're not paying a ridiculous amount to own something like that. But if that book gets up there in the thousands, then you truly know this whole thing has just been it's a ridiculous exercise in market manipulation, man. It's just ludicrous that again they're selling like books like this. This is worthless, man. There's so many printings of this, and it's not valuable. And just because it's in Japanese and there's not a lot of copies on eBay or whatever, don't think this is valuable. If you go to Japan, you can just pick this up in the recycling bins. Come on, it's like it's cool to read and it's cool to have, but it's not. Don't pay more than like $3 for this. Trust me, you can go into any used bookstore and buy a new copy for 300 yen, which is like $3. Okay, just go pick up a new copy at a Japanese bookstore, or even go to like Kunokiniya. They have Japanese imported books. Go there and get a Japanese version. You can pick it up for probably like $5 or $6, right? Don't get bamboozled into thinking this stuff is valuable just because someone decided to grade it. No, it's not valuable. It is cool artwork though. I do love this stuff. It's really cool. Yeah. Um, Toriyama's a great artist. I mean, you can't create Dragon Ball Z without being a talented artist. And that's the thing about Japanese manga. It's like they're writing and I mean, it's not like they have a separate writer. They're creating the entire book. They're writing and like Akira Toriyama wrote and drew these comics. He's the only person working on this book. And it's not in color, it's all inked here on the panels. It's a different process in manga. It's a longer process, but different. They don't produce colored manga. Only if you get to a certain status will they colorize your comic books. But this is literally how they're producing them. Like he'll sit down and ink it. It's absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, so don't overpay for shit like this, please. Don't be dumb. All right. Don't be dumb. All right. All right. We got. Yeah. So I get that a lot of people might want manga. They might want to collect manga, and right now there might be a little bit of FOMO. Like, oh man, am I going to be able to pick up a manga book if I don't pick it up now? Don't trust me. There's probably going to be a handful of books that will maintain. And Steve Aoki, man, I can't stand Steve Aoki. This dude is like the worst of the worst. The guy has money and he was doing what Logan Paul has a sensei and his name is Steve Aoki. Logan Paul, he's doing this because of Steve Aoki. Steve Aoki is this DJ, okay, avid comic book collector, but the guy's notorious for like buying something of value, like that's expensive, high valued stuff, and then just talking about it and like kind of, you know, hyping up the the cool factor of the book. And he's a big influencer because again, he's kind of this like cool. He's cooler than I am for sure. He's this DJ, kind of artsy fartsy like DJ creator, um, musician, and anyway, he loves comic books and he kind of targets these like high end books, and he's like and then he creates this sort of like upsurge in interest, and you know people start collecting and targeting the books, and then again creates sort of this like market manipulation rise, trending in prices, and then it'll come back down, right? It will come back down. So don't get caught up in it. Don't get Just kind of turn your ears off to it. If it's a book you kind of want to pick it up, then be strategic about it. Pick it up by all means, but don't get it at its height or peak. And if you're patient enough, it'll things will come back down to normal. And this whole again, um, I can't speak to where the prices will go for like a first One Piece or a first Naruto or first Dragon Ball Z. Um, those are big books, by the way. I can't see where the ceiling will go or if will ever come down. But those are two books that you would have paid thousands of dollars for anyway. So if you were going to pay thousands of dollars for them, don't lament the fact that you're now having to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for those books. Okay, because that's kind of I think where that ceiling will land. Those two books, because you've got a global marketplace of people who love Dragon Ball Z, a lot of people with money love Pokemon, a lot of people with money love Dragon Ball Z, a lot of people with money will pay big dollars to own something significant from that IP. Um, so yeah, those books, if they were out of your price range before this hype began, they'll be out of your price range after the hype dies dies down, and ultimately they'll land somewhere in between there. They'll land somewhere where it seems absolutely just fun, you know, in terms of skyrocketing. It's probably gonna again. I think I checked the it went from like a $10,000 book to like several $100,000 now. I mean, I'm kind of curious as to how high this thing will go because I really think you have a possibility here of that thing hitting like you know easily like a high grade version of that book easily hitting 500,000 in this market, 500,000. Um, because again, there's just not going to be I mean, there are going to be thousands of copies out there, but you're talking about not just the American market. You're talking about like the Chinese market. You're talking about the European market. You're talking about American. So it's just like this competition that starts in Japan. Obviously, they have the most copies, but it's going to be this sort of global competition to get your hands on one. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's up to like 100,000 right now, but the ceiling for that book is absolutely insane because of the global fandom and demand for that book. So I'm just curious to see where that will land. It's a book I will never probably own. It's a book I may run into if I ever live in Japan in some corner, you know, grandpa, he has a stack of like old shonen jumps there, just sitting there collecting dust. Um, but I mean, the chances of that happening, who knows? But it could happen. It's probably sitting in some kid's like basement right now, just like a little stack of shonen jumps. Some kid's like nostalgic corner of his bedroom. Um, where that book exists. Um, but yeah, they'll start kind of matriculating out into the market, and we'll see just how many graded copies and raw copies show up. But it is fun to follow, but it is also fun to, or not fun to see kind of dumb things playing out in the market. All right, well, Jens and I are taking a break this week from comic book hunting. Uh, just 1 week. We're gonna pick it up again next weekend. It is free comic book day tomorrow, by the way. So go out and get some comic books, get some free comic books. Um, and yeah, the addiction is real. Yeah, the addiction is real. I do feel like I want to go to the comic book shop tomorrow, but I'm resisting. And again, I just bid on a book this week I shouldn't have bid on. So I'm right now, eBay has changed because like before I could bid on a book, and if I didn't want the book, I could just like cancel my or ask the person to cancel the book. It is a kind of a dick move. Like you don't want to do that, but at the end of the day, it's like you can accidentally bid on stuff or impulse bid on stuff, especially for people like us collectors, right? We'll tend to be like, oh, I want to bid on that, and then kind of regret it later. So there's a lot of remorse kind of bidding there. And in the past, you used to be able to be like, I don't want it, and kind of get out of it. But now eBay, they're clamping down on that. If you win an auction, you have to get the book. If you don't get the book, they'll just kick you off the platform. And so you got to ask yourself, do I want to get my buying privileges on eBay shut down for good, or do I want to just commit to a book and buy it? In this case, $30 for what the book is, it's actually, yeah, I will get that book if I win it for $30. Again, Frank Miller, Jim Lee, double signed, issue one, the special edition of the Frank Miller ugly cover, but Batman, All Star Batman Robin. It's a great book. Definitely with those two signatures together on the same book, two legendary characters on the same book, $30 is insanely cheap. But again, a lot of things can happen between now and tomorrow. So we'll see if I win the auction first. I'm fine either way. If I get it for $30, I'm happy. If I don't get it and it sells for like $40, that's fine too. I've saved myself $30, but I kind of need to get off of eBay and stop doing stuff like that because I put myself in a position where like I really don't need that book, and I really don't need to be spending $30 on a book like that. I, I mean, it's a great book, but it's a Batman book at the end of the day. It's not a great comic book that, it's not like a book like this, right? This is a great comic book. That one's okay because of the art. It's not a bad book. I don't want to say it's a bad book, but you know, there are just some books that are just like, wow, this is a great comic book, and that one's just kind of like, eh. And what's more important is like, I don't need it. I don't need a double. I mean, it's not gonna feel like it's part of my like PC, like a PC personal collection type book. I'm fine with just having, you know, my regular covers of that book. I was even thinking like, I got all these Jim Lee books. Do I really need the whole run of? I have the whole run of All Star Batman and Robin, by the way, minus a few of the variant covers. But Do I really need that book? Do I really need that run? No. The only reason I kind of have it is because I'm just a big fan of both creators, like Frank Miller, Jim Lee. Um, but yeah, it is a great read. I don't want to, like, you should read it, especially in the trade paperback form. Like, it's a good read. I don't want to say it's like bad. And again, the artwork in it is phenomenal. Just talking about Jim Lee. Um, Jim Lee at his some of his finest. But yeah, the story is just it's just story is just it's not well written, unfortunately. And they tried. Jim Lee and Frank Miller, they try. I'm sure they came into the project being like, boy, it's gonna be fun to get work together and all this, and then it just kind of devolved into this, like, where they both are committed and had to put out stuff, and they're at points in their careers where, like, why am I doing this? Why am I working so hard? Um, it just kind of became one of those, like, good ideas in concept, but then when they actually tried to do it, they're like, man, this could actually really be bad. What are we doing here? That's what it ended up being, just really bad at the end of the day. So yeah, all right. Well, we got we got our guys in the house. I am kind of tired. It's getting kind of late, so we're gonna wind it down. But hope you enjoyed this edition of Otaku Weekly Top 10. Again, I just want to um, bring attention to Jerry Conway's run here on Superman. If you guys should definitely pick up a comic book from that run and just have it in your collection. Um, and there are so many Jerry Conway books to add and collect. So if you don't want to do the Superman route, that's the route I would take. But if you want to do something else, by all means. I mean, I've got facsimile of the first Punisher and the first Gwen Stacy, and I got the facsimiles because I'm never going to own. Well, I shouldn't say never, but those other two books are kind of out of my, not that they're out of my price range, but yeah, they're out of my price range. Um, you're gonna have to spend several hundreds of dollars to own the Punisher books. Like, mid grade, you're easily spending $700 $800 for a mid grade book. So um, it's just, that's the level of book that it is. So, but don't feel like you have to get that level of a book to really pay homage to Jerry Conway. You can. This book is every bit as good. I think better, to be honest. Well, no, I wouldn't say better, but it's a Superman book, so in that sense, it is. You guys know. All right. Thanks for joining me, guys. Again, watch my previous video where we interview Stephen Yu, Seth Singleton. Their project is Joan, Volume 3. Give that project some love. If you have want to just get a cool indie book, support a cool Kickstarter, get some cool digital physical copies along with some original uh, goodies on that Kickstarter. Go support that, contribute what you can, and take part. But yeah, go watch that video, support that project, and join us this month. Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month is the month of May. And so on my channel, along with uh, Naman, a Comic Bookworms channel, and a few other Asian American YouTube creators. We're all interviewing various community members, various artists, various writers in the industry, in our hobby, and we're featuring Asian heritage in these interviews. So um, continue to check those out. In fact, we've got an interview tomorrow in the morning. I don't think I'll be able to make it, um, but a comic book worm's gonna be interviewing. Um, oh, I forget his name. I'm gonna have to look it on the calendar, but he's gonna be interviewing a great comic book creator. So go onto his channel, support that, catch the stream if you can. But we're also connecting with the likes of Ryan Odagawa, Lo Gwen, and Cliff Chang next week. So you don't want to miss those. Stay tuned to this channel because it'll be broadcasting from my channel as well. But we'll interview those guys, and it should be a good time. So lots to do this month, lots to cover. We'll see you back here next week for another edition of Otaku Weekly. See you in the next one. Otaku out.